What's up, Tiger fans? It's the Morgan Thomas Show, and tonight we have a great show for you.
And that's right. Tonight we'll give you our reaction to Clemson stifling the Texas A&M Aggies, and we'll give you our position grades for Clemson.
That's right. We also run through our Week 3 picks against the spread and wrap it all up with our preview and prediction of Clemson versus Syracuse, the game this weekend. Let's load the buses, Tiger fans. We are live.
Let me tell you something right now. They don't put championship rings on smooth hands. You gotta go earn it.
Third down and 12. Aylesford going for a bunch for Gardner. Lots of pushing. He has it at the 8-yard line. Rod Gardner,
which spreads the field a little more. They've been able to find some gaps in the running game with this. Proctor under pressure on the flat. Spiller makes a move. Needs to get the first down.
Watson takes a snap, rolls right, looks into the end zone. Hunter Renfrow caught it! Touchdown! 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 With a second left.
A third throw in 3 plays. It's intercepted. And the Tigers are going the other way. A.J. Terrell with a pick 6. And backpedaling Lawrence flips it open. Wide open. Justin Ross up and running. The Alabama native wins the foot race. And Clemson strengthens its grip on this championship game.
Wow, gut punch by Clemson right there.
And now, the Morgan Thomas Show, brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
Here we go. We are back another Wednesday night. You're watching the Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas, and joining me is my good friend, co-host, Big Al. Alan Adams, welcome to the show, Al.
And another good Wednesday after another good win from the Clemson Tigers. I love talking after a win, and that's kind of all we do nowadays, so I'm all for it.
I hope to be talking about Clemson Tigers after a win on a Wednesday, after a win on a Saturday for the rest of the year. So let's just go ahead and post that up there. That's what we're looking forward to. A lot of things going on this weekend. A couple of good games we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the Clemson game. They just went ahead and put it to the Texas A&M Aggies, so we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the Clemson-Syracuse game towards the end. We're going to give you some of our picks against the spread after halftime, and then, well, as always, we'll talk to you as well to get your questions, concerns, emotional outbursts. But welcome again. We're excited to have you. Got a lot of people jumping in over on YouTube right now. We have 12 watching over live on YouTube. Al, what you got over there on Facebook?
I'm throwing down with 25 right now, brother. You got to step your game up.
Woo, okay, YouTube, you heard that. 25 over on Facebook, 13 over on YouTube. Let's get the sharing going and the subscribing and the liking. So make sure if you like the show, if you're watching the show, like the video, and share it with your friends so that they can join us as we talk about our Clemson Tigers this week. We do this every week, every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. So if this is your first time, come join us. We'd love to have you. We are live in Greenville, South Carolina. So wherever you may be watching, welcome to the show. Again, we're on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. And we're also live, or we're also have our replays over on the Roar's website. That's right. We're a digital partner of the Roar, the radio station. And you can check them out over on www.theroar.radio. If you didn't know about the Roar, they're 105.5 in Greenville, Anderson, Clemson, and 97.5 in Spartanburg, 1560 AM over in Spartanburg as well. The Roar is the premier local sports radio station in the South. For the Clemson Tigers. They're also the flagship station for the Clemson Tigers. So whenever the Tigers are on, you can hear them over on the Roar. So check them out. And you know, this show has its own personal sponsor as well. It's brought to you by Black's Tire Inc., located in Westminster, South Carolina. Family owned and operated since 1971. So if you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for friendly professionals to answer your questions, check them out. 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call, 864-647-9292. and we would appreciate it. We don't recommend any place that we haven't used ourselves, and so we recommend those guys for sure. Al, we are back again. Excited to be back, and the Clemson Tigers did the job. They did the business, and we'll talk about that towards the end or at the beginning of the show. But I noticed somebody really wanted me to talk about this, so I wanted to start it off kind of an icebreaker for you, okay?
All right.
One of our fans messaged us and said, did you see the ESPN.com ratings of the top 150 teams of all time? Because it's the 150th year of college football, I guess that's why they did it. And so there's an article out there that has the top 150 teams, and Clemson actually is on there 3 times. You would probably guess that it's the 3 national champion teams. But the 5th team all time was 2018's 15-0 team. What'd you think about that?
Well, I mean, I guess it's really difficult to compare, over different eras of football. Obviously, I think there's an incredible case you can make for, that team being number 1 all time. If you remember the conversation kind of going into the season, it was, that Alabama team was going to be the best team of all time. They finally had a quarterback who wasn't a game manager. They had Tua Tagovailoa. You know how he can sling it. You know how he can run. They were really excited about, his prospects and how he was going to be able to lead them to glory. And I mean, what happened in the championship game? Obviously, we all are very, very aware of what happened. Clemson spanked them all over the field, 28 points, 44-16. If we beat what was widely considered the best team of all time, I'm not really sure how we're 5th on the list. But still, I think there's definitely an argument to be made, for any team for sure. But yeah, if obviously, orange-colored glasses through our list, Clemson would be number 1.
Yeah, I want Clemson to be number 1 in everything for sure.
That's right.
If you look at the write-up, let me read it to you, okay? So you've got, they beat, like you said, the 44-16, what everybody thought was the best team in college football. First 15-0 team since 1897. Mm-hmm. Basically, first 15-0 team since college football actually mattered. Right. Clemson dominated thanks to a coming-of-age freshman, Trevor Lawrence, who took over for Kelly Bryant in the 5th game of the season. That might be why Clemson won its last 10 games by 20 points. By at least 20 points. The offense averaged 526 yards per game, but the defense, which held 8 teams to 10 points or fewer, carried the load. Clemson gave up 13 points per game, best in the nation, 291 yards per game, 6th in the FBS. They had 2 veteran defensive linemen who won national awards. Clelin Ferrell took the Hendricks Award for best defensive end, and Christian Wilkins earned the Campbell Trophy as the best student athlete. Ferrell, Wilkins, and offensive lineman Mitch Hyatt made the consensus All-America team. The Tigers won their 4th consecutive ACC title, which was a school first as well. And then they have 40th overall was the 1981 team. You got to scroll down a little bit further for the 2016 team, 63rd. And the thing that they kind of hit the 2016 team, the 14-1 team, the Deshaun Watson team, the last second winners, was that they didn't have any consensus All-Americans. It was the first team to not have to win a national championship and not have consensus All-Americans since 1984, and that was BYU. Do you think that is an accurate assessment of that team? I feel like that just because they didn't have consensus All-Americans doesn't mean that they weren't better than that, better than 63rd all time.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I don't really agree with that measure as far as being the standard for where they should be ranked. I mean, what if we had, 3 guys who are the second best at their position, and these just one team happen to have one player better? I think that's crazy. I wouldn't rank them that way, but hey, what do I know? I'm not getting paid the big bucks to rank them anyway. So,
well, we keep doing this show. You might be, so that's just true. Prepare yourself now. But what I would say is that Deshaun, that proves to me that Deshaun Watson team, he did more with less. As you see Deshaun Watson right now, I mean, he's on the Texans. Man, what a frustrating game that was Sunday night. I know we got a lot of Clemson fans out there that are also Texans fans like myself because of Deshaun Watson. What a frustrating game that was for him to yet again bring the team back with less than 2 minutes to go in the game off of 2 giant pass plays, only to see their defense go into prevent defense again. Another year here where Romeo Crennel is just putting him into prevent defense, and you know what they say about prevent defense. All it does is prevent you from winning the game. But yeah, I think that confirms that my thought of Trevor Lawrence really had the best supporting cast possible. That defensive line we can't say enough about. Obviously, the wide receivers are great. They're still on the team. And then Deshaun himself didn't have a lot of All-Americans, but I mean, he had some he had Mike Williams, first-round draft pick, had Ben Boulware, Carlos Watkins, those guys, big-time guys that Ben didn't work out in the NFL, but Carlos is there, right? So he had a couple of guys on there that I think deserve some mention. I think they were a little bit better, especially I remember this note, and I believe it was this team. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the team that they beat Florida State, they beat Ohio State, and they beat Alabama. And did they beat somebody else? They beat Auburn. So they beat like the last 5 champions or something like that. So I think that in itself, being able to beat all those historic teams, should have given them a better ranking there. I still hold that 2016 14-1 team in my heart as the number 1 team, even though I know the other team was the best ever, quote unquote. What do you think? Do you have that 2016 team ahead of the 18 team, or you just kind of give it to them because they 15-0?
Yeah, you can't go 15-0 and not have them at the top, really. I understand, like you said, they beat all those programs, and that's great. Hey, we had a great win on the road last year at Texas A&M, and of course, it's just the way we beat Alabama. We didn't win by just a few points like we did in 16. We absolutely hammered them. I think that says something. And again, the supporting cast was just overall better, offense and defense.
All right, Al, well, that's our icebreaker of the night. Let's go ahead and get started on segment number 1, and this is our Texas A&M recap. Final thoughts. Texas A&M comes to Death Valley and loses. Clemson beats them 24-10. A lot of Texas A&M fans, just like Syracuse fans, were starting to talk a little bit about how they were going to take it to Clemson. Not only that, but a specific offensive lineman even guaranteed a win. And really, I don't even count that they scored 10 points. I only count this, in my mind, this is a 24-3 game. That garbage time, 2 timeout was classic Jimbo Fisher being, I'm not even going to say it on air, just frustrating me for sure. I know it frustrated a lot of fans, but we want to talk about kind of the thoughts on offense, the thoughts on defense, and we also have a little bit of a good, bad, and ugly to wrap it up. But what are your thoughts about Clemson and how the offense performed against Texas A&M last Saturday night?
Yeah, I got to be honest, Texas A&M played pretty good defense, I thought, for the most part. I mean, goodness gracious, you hold a Clemson team who has all these weapons to 24 points. I mean, that's a victory. You got to count that as a victory, really. I mean, you expect this team to score close to 50 a game. And they kind of, I don't know if they were confusing back there or what they were doing. I know Lawrence had a couple touchdowns where he underthrew. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. But, there was a few missed opportunities, but I thought Texas A&M played a really good game defensively anyways, just holding us to 24 points. I thought that was a really good job. So I wasn't super impressed with the offense, but again, super impressed with the team in general. I mean, you beat some, like you said, 24-3 really. Without the garbage touchdown. I mean, that's impressive for, I think they were number 12 at the time when they came in Death Valley. So that's a good win. That's a dominating win. And that's exactly what we needed to do.
I like to see, it's kind of a flip-flop between the Georgia Tech game and now the Texas A&M game. The Texas A&M game, Trevor Lawrence was finally able to meet up with Justin Ross on a couple of passes, led the team in receptions and yards after really kind of going silent in Georgia Tech, and we called him out on that. We said, hey, you got to step that up. We got to get Justin Ross involved for sure. We want to see people get Rossed, and they definitely saw that. And, one of those rollout passes, it still kills me just that Trevor Lawrence can roll out to what most people say the incorrect side of the field. Right. Against his natural throwing motion and turn his shoulder square to the wide receiver while running the opposite direction out of bounds and still throw it over everyone for 35 yards into the end zone, right where Justin Ross didn't even have to barely throw his hands up, which to me is just amazing that kind of talent. I'd like to see him not have to run around like that, but just the fact that he can do that shows that he listened to Dabo. Dabo said at the beginning of the season, hey, we want you to make plays with your legs. That doesn't mean that you have to always run and go past that line of scrimmage with your feet. It just means you need to move the pocket around and get yourself a different kind of view. And he definitely did that against Texas A&M. Lynn J. Dixon, wow, when they shut down Travis Etienne, do you feel like that Texas A&M came in the game saying, whatever we do, Travis is not getting 200 yards on us.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. And I mean, it was really frustrating early, I'm sure, for Travis. Like he's used to getting, 7 yards a carry or whatever it is. It's ridiculous. I mean, the guy's an incredible talent, but Texas A&M wasn't having any of it. They stopped him pretty cold for quite a while, as a matter of fact. Obviously, he ended up getting some yards later on in the game and had a couple catches that were big as well. But, man, when they put Linjay in, what a change of pace. He hits those holes so hard and so fast. It is really exciting to watch this kid. I can't wait to watch him going forward.
It's like he had a player wrapped around his waist like a fanny pack, but his feet just kept going. Yeah. He keeps that motor running, even if he's got somebody hanging on his back. And it was awesome to see how he picked up the slack when Travis was getting shut down. Travis barely got over 2 yards per carry, I believe, but then Linjay turned around and got over 7 yards per carry. And then that's what I said at the beginning of this season when we first saw the first game in Thursday night. I said, man, this team is adaptable. That's the word for this team for me on offense and on defense. When you shut down the pass, wide receiver U turns into running back U and just churns off over 400 yards, right? When you kind of shut down the main runner, what do? Trevor goes over for 250 yards and starts throwing the ball to Travis and was successful throwing the ball in the short flats. So they are very adaptable to any situation and can change on a dime and mold to what that defense shows them. On the flip side, they can mold to what the offense shows them. It's really, really great to see. I think this team is, because of that, is defense and offense is just better, more well-rounded. What do you think? Than even the 15-0 team. I feel like they're more well-rounded, and where we thought they were going to lose off or fall off on some spots, they really didn't.
They haven't necessarily yet. I don't think they've faced a great offense yet. Texas A&M was a good offense, I believe. And honestly, I'm not sure they're really going to face a great offense here for a while, at least. I would definitely put, the 18 team, as a little more well-rounded overall, especially on defense. I mean, you can't lose all those players and still be, I don't want to say, I guess well-rounded. Depends on how you define that, maybe. But they've done a good job. They've impressed me. Obviously, both teams have been able to move the ball a little bit more than we're kind of, than we kind of anticipate, that we kind of expect, from a Clemson defense. But the fact that they lost all of those guys and they're still able to hold Texas A&M to 3 points is insane. Whether it be a missed opportunity or not, those are going to happen during the game. And the fact that they're still able to hold them such a low point total is crazy. I'm just real proud of the guys.
That's talking about the defense. Let's jump over to that defensive side of the ball. Kayvon Wallace. Man, let me tell you. So they come out in a 3-3-5, and everybody says, oh, it's just for Georgia Tech. Well, they still coming out in the 3-3-5. Sometimes they're coming out in the 3-2-6. And not only that, they spelled Isaiah Simmons with Kayvon Wallace and let Kayvon be a linebacker for this game, majority of the game, which I was really interested to see how it was going to go. And it worked out great for Wallace and for Simmons, even though he almost got caught really early in the game, flat-footed for the deep ball that was overthrown by Mon. That was to the house if he had to hit it. And that was right over Simmons' head, which we consistently say these guys get too comfortable with their ability. Isaiah Simmons, we know he's fast. We know Kayvon Wallace, you're fast, but we still need to stop with this letting guys just go by you, especially when you're playing center field. That should not happen. But Kayvon Wallace, man, the blitzes that he was on were amazing. He did great with them. The interception later in the game with Tanner Muse was all because of Kayvon Wallace's pressure, really. So I'm excited about him, to see him grow and be able to change positions and be, again, adaptable. Chad Smith, again, I felt like led the team. He not lead the team, but he was second on the team in tackles for the night. Mm-hmm. And they're not really AJ Terrell. He's turned into kind of that Mackenzie Alexander where they just won't throw to him. And so now they're throwing to DK, they're throwing to Nolan. And while Nolan Turner missed an open field tackle at the beginning, man, did he respond. I call Nolan Turner the new Hunter Renfrow of the Clemson Tigers because he made a mistake early, but man, he was there in a key fumble, forced a fumble to Kellen Mond, and was in on a bunch of tackles and a bunch of breakups later on in the game too. They picked on him a lot. They picked on DK a lot, and it really didn't work for him. So I'm excited about that. And then to kind of throw special teams in with defense to round it out, Will Spires was very consistent. No shanks or anything bad. 42.3 yards average, which is really what you're looking for out of someone like him that doesn't have the strongest leg in the world, but that's a pretty good average. So I felt like I said, the defense just is continuing to show that we can trust them, and showing Brent Venables that they can trust, or he can trust them too.
Yeah, sure. No doubt about it. I mean, one of my, good, bad, and ugly, we talked about the good. Brent Venables' game plan. Are you kidding me? I mean, the 3-3-5, throwing them something they were not ready for at all. Mon looked confused. They kept him in the pocket. Mon is strong when he gets out of the pocket. He's able to make plays. He's able to extend the plays, and find an open receiver. He did that at Texas A&M all game last year. A lot of that had a lot of luck involved, as y'all remember, tip passes, from linebackers and safeties, falling into the hands of the receivers. I've never seen anything like it. It was absolutely crazy. But, he said, you know what, this year we're keeping him in the pocket. And that's what he did. He kept him in there. Mon just kind of looked a little confused. He looked a little timid, and he wasn't able to make those plays. And just a brilliant job by Brent Venables, which is why he is the best in the game anywhere. He's probably the best Clemson coordinator ever. And he's definitely the best defensive coordinator in college football right now. No doubt about it. Wouldn't trade him for anybody.
So did you put down your good as Brent Venables and his defensive scheme?
Plan. Yeah.
Well, I had this.
One of my good. Anyway.
I had the same thing for the good as well. I really put the entire defense was such a good for them, just because of the ability to be able to move from a more traditional 4-3 to now a 3-3-5. Yeah. And a question for you is, do you feel like that the 3 down linemen, would you prefer that over 4 down linemen? To be honest with you, I think that you have to trust 3 down linemen more than you would have to trust 4. A lot of people say, well, they're going to 3 because they don't have enough studs on the line. But I think that shows a lot of trust to just put 3 out there.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, that's if I can skip over to my ugly right now real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
I obviously told you, I thought this was from a Clemson perspective, so I didn't have any ugly, for the opposite side. But the ugly, even though I just praised Brent Venables and all that kind of stuff, I think I texted you about this during the game. I hate when we rush 3 players, okay? I don't mind having 3 down linemen. That's not something I'm against. I think it worked brilliantly, like we said. But I like pressure coming from some, another position, whether it be linebacker, safety. You can blitz a corner. I don't really care. But especially in 3rd and long situations, we consistently ran 3 out there, and they picked up several plays that was kind of frustrating 3rd and longs. I really think if you go back and watch the game and watch the film, when they picked up a big play or maybe missed a big opportunity, where you overthrew a receiver or something, we were rushing 3 and getting no pressure on the quarterback. I didn't like when we rushed 3 when we had Lawrence and Wilkins and Furl out there. So I certainly don't like it now. It just gives the quarterback too much time. You're going to find somebody open. I don't care how many DBs you have or how good they are. They're going to find somebody. And they did in that game. But again, it didn't matter because there weren't enough of those opportunities, and they weren't able to take advantage of them enough. Maybe Venables knew that. Maybe he knew Mon couldn't beat him if he had to throw within the pocket, whether his guys were open or not. I can't stand watching this rush 3 guys and getting no pressure and having somebody wide open, even if we survive it. Even if we survive and they miss the pass or something, I can't stand to watch it. So that was one of my uglies for the game.
And they were lucky in the fact that Kellen Mond was so shaken up,
right?
Even from the start. He was just overthrowing people from the start. So they didn't really have to worry about his passing game that much, and so they didn't have to kind of go back. But the 3-3-5 or the 3-2-6 dime kind of formation, quarter dime, they kind of did a quarter a little bit too with 3 people back. But that formation allows for blitzes from the cornerbacks a lot. And you saw that with XT and AJ and, Kayvon just kind of blitzing from the outside, more of a lining up in the slot, but then not just sprinting as hard as they could to the quarterback. Right. And that kind of stuff really shook him up pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And I think it, caused obviously his poor performance. You talk about this. I think David Hood put this on Twitter, where you talk about how, well, it was the quarterback just was shaken. He just wasn't, he wasn't playing his game right. Nobody wants to give the compliment to the defense that the defense put the pressure and he couldn't perform under the defense. So
yes.
It depends on what team you're on, right? If you're,
that's right.
what you're saying or not. But the bad for me, I'm not picking on the guy, but this is another week where I'm seeing James Skalski wrapping up people, and they're like sliding out of his arms.
Yeah.
It didn't happen often, but there's 2 or 3 tackles where I said, here he is. Boom, he locks up on him, and it's like he just loses his stick, and they slip right out, and he falls all the way to, he grabs him up at the top of the shoulder pads and then just kind of like slides down the body. And so I'm a little concerned with that. I want to see that cleaned up. I saw it some in the Georgia Tech game. I'm seeing it again in the Texas A&M game. Towards the end of the game, they actually put Jake Venables in at middle linebacker to kind of try that out a little bit. I don't know if that was just because of the amount of snaps being played or not. I still trust James Skalski for sure. Just would like to see him clean that up, especially from a middle linebacker perspective. The bad for me, obviously, we already talked about him. Kellen Mond was just all over the place. And then the ugly for me, all right, let me give you my ugly.
Sure.
The fact that you're down, and Mickey went on a whole, on the Roar, went on a whole tirade about this. But you've got 12 minutes left in the game. In the fourth quarter, you're down 21 points or so, and you're still running the game clock down to 1 second.
Yeah.
And you're doing this like fake snap, which I felt like was a snap infraction every single time.
Right.
Like pretending to clap but not clapping, and then the offensive lineman pointing. I think that shouldn't be allowed, because there were a couple of times that I felt like they were doing it just to mess with us. And then you get all the way down, Al, you get all the way down to the goal line and call 2 timeouts because you got to score.
Yep.
That is the ugly for me. Just completely ruined my pick because they broke the spread, so just really made me mad. Gave you the win on that and me the loss. But to not have the sense of urgency, you won the time of possession by almost 6 minutes, and lose the game by really over 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm actually going to go through real quick if I can hit. I had one more good point that I wanted to talk about. How about our boy Amari Rodgers? Okay, the return of Amari Rodgers. It was good to see number 3 back out there. He obviously got a couple catches. Man, he was running hard when he got that catch too. It was awesome. You can tell he has worked his tail off to get back out there on the field, and I really think this is going to be a huge boost for the Clemson offense going forward. Have that more traditional slot guy in there. So very proud of Amari Rodgers. Glad he rehabbed so quickly and got back. It's just good to see him out there for sure. When we were talking about the bad, all right, we got to find something. Like we said, I thought this was all Clemson, so I had to find something. I want to pick on Trevor Lawrence for his underthrows. He's been doing that a little bit consistently this year, underthrowing a lot on the deep ball. And, man, it is really hard to talk bad about Trevor Lawrence. As a matter of fact, he really should come through the computer and just kick us in the teeth. All right, it's not really fair. We love Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, we think he's going to be, huge going on the rest of the year. But he has had a little trouble with that. Had a little trouble with interceptions in the first game, actually had one this game, but he's just missing some of the big passes. He'll get there, okay? But you got, like I said, we were looking for something. And Justin Ross, you mentioned Justin Ross earlier in the game. He also dropped 2 passes in a row, okay? Late in the game. As far as I'm concerned, he has met his drop quota for the whole year, okay? I don't expect Justin Ross to ever drop a pass. And he dropped a couple in a row, on a drive near the end of the game. It would have been first downs. But that final score, so you could really just kind of breathe and take it easy. So I'm getting angry at him for that. He's going to have to do better than that. I expect nothing but perfection from Justin Ross here going forward. Ugly, we kind of matched up a little bit. I think you called it the bad. I called it the ugly. I had the Skalski missed tackles in there as well. You heard nothing but good things about how dominant he was and how he was going to turn heads this season. I still think he can, but it's a little bit concerning right now that, he had so many problems with the missed tackles in the first game. And I noticed a couple, in this game as well, like you mentioned. I believe I texted you about it, or you texted me, I think, about that actually first. Skalski with a couple missed tackles. Look, we get it. There's a lot of plays in a football game, okay? There's a lot of times that he does a lot of good things, I would imagine. But you remember the bad ones, okay? Unfortunately, you remember the bad ones. They stick out. If you don't have a big touchdown to offset it with or something like that, you're going to remember the bad stuff. So hopefully he gets that cleaned up moving forward, and he's obviously able to be the player everybody thought that he was going to be for us this year. And I already talked about my other ugly rushing 3, so, I won't go on a tirade about that again. But, that's kind of my overall thoughts for the game, some of the things I picked out. It was a good game, good win for Clemson. Ready to move on to the next one.
Well, I tell you, I like the 3-3-5. I like the 3-2-6. I like the formations that they're doing to change the looks, to mold, to fit the defense, to fit their players and the personnel that they have. So I think Brent Venables is just showing up and showing out about how good of a coach he is on the defensive side of things. It's exciting to see. Let me tell you something. There's something new we're going to try this week going forward just to kind of improve our editing, post-show editing, and some of our quality. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back. Give us 10 seconds, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, what's up? We are back. I told you it wasn't going to be that long, so don't run away. We got 29 people watching over on YouTube. Al, what you got over there on Facebook? Is it the same?
I gotta be honest. It was like 32 to 35, but right now I'm looking at 28, so we're still holding strong over here.
Oh my goodness. All right, now Facebook, now you got to show up over there. So what I want you to do, if you haven't already, make sure you like the video and share the video with your friends. YouTube is beating you right now. Oh, we just lost one on YouTube, 30. YouTube, it's neck and neck over here. Let's get the likes and the subscribes and the shares over on YouTube as well. We appreciate the support. You can check out all of our replays, Facebook, YouTube, and on the Roars website. We're going to get into our second segment of the night, and that is Week 2 position grades. We're going to just kind of run through this just like last week, give you our grading scale. If you remember, Alan's a tough grader. And Morgan, I'm more of an easy A. So if your GPA is struggling, you want to come to my class. All right, just giving you that heads up. But I'm going to start us out with the quarterback. I gave Trevor Lawrence last week a C, even though I know I just said I'm kind of a lenient grader. I did grade Trevor Lawrence a C because I expect more out of him than what he did in the 2 interceptions and kind of a low passing game against Georgia Tech. But he rebounded. He found Justin Ross. He did have 1 interception, so I give him a B instead of an A. But he was able to connect with a lot of players, a lot of tight ends, a lot of slot guys, especially Justin Ross. So I'm excited to see him slowly improve from now a C to a B grade point. What you got for the QB position?
I gave him a B+. Like you said, he had the pick. He had a few underthrows that kind of bothered me a little bit. But I had to give him the plus simply based off that throw to Ross alone. Like you said, rolling to the bad side of the field, as they like to call it, throwing across his body. It's amazing with the talent that he has. That when he rolls over, that way, and he sees all these defenders coming at him and Ross leaking behind the defense, he's got to be giggling inside because he knows he's going to make that touchdown pass. And I gave him the plus based on that alone. So B+, not too bad.
Now, I want to stop because you're talking about giggling inside. I put this on Twitter, at Clemson Morgan. Go follow us over there, Clemson Allen, Clemson Morgan on Twitter. But I put this on Twitter during the game. Don't you think Brent Venables giggles inside when he knows that he's just called a blitz between XT and AJ? I mean, if I had just called that play, I'm thinking to myself, this is about to get nasty right now. And so I just wonder what goes through his mind and what if he's – I would love to see the camera go to him on one of those plays just to see what he's doing, because I'd be kind of giggling knowing that quarterback's about to get destroyed, which he did. But running over to running backs, I gave the running back position a B because at first it was kind of around a C, maybe even a D. Travis was really not getting anything going. But the fact that Lynn J. Dixon stepped up, showed he's a good number 2, and the fact that Travis Etienne was catching balls out of the backfield, which is what he said he was working on this year, and he did really well at it and was able to spark some scoring drives. I gave him a B.
Yeah, simply so we don't, repeat each other too much and sound like we got an echo in the building. I gave him a B for the exact same reasons you did. I mean, it was just you're exactly right. You said everything I was going to say, so I don't want to repeat it. It's very eloquent as usual, I'm sure. But
so no, you go ahead. I got the wide receivers because they improved so much since last game. I gave them an A. Ross, Higgins, Etienne. I kind of counted him as the wide receiver. But Higgins, man, he is just so consistent. He's there when you need him. He's kind of like a DeAndre Hopkins or Hunter Renfrow. He's just there when you need him. And let Justin Ross get those big time catches, but T. Higgins got some big time catches too. And he really kind of because he was catching the ball while Ross was dropping balls, it kind of got that offense rolling too early in the game.
Yeah, I gave him a B+. They did a solid job overall. It wasn't too bad. Like you said, I'm giving them, I'm a little bit hard on them again because Ross had those 2 drops for sure. So I'm penalizing them for that. It's just like you did Trevor Lawrence with the C, last game, because we expect more from them. But T. Higgins, goodness gracious. Okay, that catch near the end zone, I really thought he was going to find a way to sneak in somehow. That was like a Hunter Renfrow type catch. Okay, that's exactly what it looked like. Some crazy, I'm going to throw my body out this way and just going to happen to end up in my hands. T. Higgins is showing why he's going to be a very high draft pick at the end of the year.
Yeah, I love T, and I think he's just so good for the team, so consistent, just reliable. For the tight ends, I actually gave him a B. I felt like Chalk had 2 pretty good catches. Luke Price was a key blocker on Trevor Lawrence touchdown at the goal line early in the game, so I gave him a B.
I actually gave him a B minus. They did okay. They had a catch on the first play of the game. They threw to him on the first play. Chalk had a couple of catches, but nothing major. I've noticed a couple of missed blocks. So they did all right, but a lot to improve upon. What we knew was going to kind of be a battle this whole season anyways. So hopefully they can get a little better, at least get their blocking assignments down, and hopefully become a bigger threat in the passing game, but we'll kind of see how it goes.
What you got for the offensive line?
Offensive line. I gave the offensive line a B. I thought they did a pretty good job. Obviously, you kind of highlight the struggles in the running game with Etienne, so it kind of makes you want them to grade lower. But again, I think that kind of makes the perception of them a little worse than they actually did. They did a pretty good job protecting Trevor. They opened up some holes for Etienne. Maybe he was just able, or for Lynn J. Dixon, maybe he was able to find him a little better than Etienne was. So I'm giving the offensive line a B. Pretty solid job from them this weekend.
Some people were saying that Lynn J. was able to find him because he's quicker than Travis. I think that is just way too assumptive of that game. I think it was just somebody had the momentum going for him. Somebody had a good game. Somebody didn't. Right.
Sure.
I think also the defense played more involved in that as well, because when Travis was out there, they focused on him a little bit more. I'm not already going to say that Lynn J. is quicker than Travis. I don't believe that at all. They're definitely similar, but they have some differences. And I think, you can't really complain about him being able to pick up the slack. I'm glad that he did. I gave a B to the offensive line. I think they did really well with the running game and being able to kind of work through that. And so I enjoyed that as well. And also they kind of protect Trevor. He did get 2 sacks, but you know what? One of those sacks that ESPN gave him, one of those sacks was him getting stepped on by Jackson Carman. Yeah. And I'm like, you can't call that a sack. It's no different than taking a knee. He fell down on his knee and a player crushed his ankle. I mean, why are you going to then give that to the defensive lineman? I don't get that at all. But supposedly he got sacked twice. According to what I think, he only got sacked once. So moving over to the defense, what'd you give the defensive line last weekend?
Before I roll to that, actually, if you don't mind, I know we do a lot of agreeing here on this show, but I am going to disagree with you. I'm not necessarily saying the fans are right in this particular case. I do think Lynn J. Dixon is a little bit quicker than Travis Etienne, especially out of his breaks and making his cuts and seeing the holes. I do think he's a little bit quicker, which is hard to say because Etienne does a great job. Etienne hits the hole really hard, and he gets there fast. But I think as far as being quick and shifty, I'll definitely give the nod to the audience there. I do think he's a little bit quicker there. On the defense, I did grade the defensive line just for you this time. Okay, defensive tackles and defensive ends I hadn't put out last time. Unit this time, I gave them a B plus. It's really hard to judge them in this game. Obviously with the rushing 3, did they do their job? It looks like it. They didn't get any pressure, but they kept them in the pocket, which I think was the game plan all along. When they're running the 3-3-5, so a lot of them getting double teamed when it's 3-on-5. You know how that works. So it's just kind of is what it is. But I gave them a B plus. So it's just hard to grade that one.
I don't like your B pluses and B minuses, and I definitely don't like you disagreeing with the show host. We talked about this last night. We talked about this. I gave the defensive line an A. I felt like anybody with 3 linemen holding a team for 53 rushing yards has got to get an A. I know that there was a lot involved with that, but the fact that they're coming out in 3-3-5, 3-2-6s, dime and nickel formations and holding a team to 53 rushing yards, I said that I didn't really enjoy their rushing game when I watched the Texas State game, so I kind of knew that Texas A&M's pro-style rushing attack was going to fall flat, but 53 yards is really flat. I didn't expect that, so I was giving them an A. For linebackers, I gave linebackers a B. I felt like, you lost Simmons because you swapped with Wallace. Chad Smith did really well.
Yep.
So, I mean, I could have easily given him an A, I think, but I think with Skalski kind of, I don't know about him and his tackling yet, but I do feel like Chad Smith was consistent again. Wallace was really good, and Simmons when they swapped back and forth.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I gave him a B as well. I liked what I saw from Chad Smith. He was very active, getting in on a lot of tackles, like you said. I believe he was the second leading tackler on the day. I believe you mentioned that earlier in the show. The Kayvon Wallace, I love him when they bring Kayvon Wallace on a blitz and stuff. This guy, he wants to hit, and he wants to hit hard. He's a lot like Isaiah Simmons in that respect. Not quite the length, obviously, but he still does a great job. I love seeing him in that role. But again, same thing, Skalski with a couple of missed tackles and that kind of stuff. So I gave him a B, but not too bad for the linebackers anyways.
For the cornerbacks, I was excited to see Mario Goodrich play some more downs, play some more snaps. I felt like DK held his own, and Nolan's a safety, so we won't count him yet. But I felt like DK held his own, considering this is gonna be kind of what happens this year. Is they're gonna pick on him instead of AJ, and the fact that you got AJ out there and they don't pick on him was really big. The fact that you could blitz with AJ was really big as well. So I actually gave the cornerbacks an A.
I give the cornerbacks an A as well. Kendrick and Terrell both pretty active. Like you said, they don't tend to target Terrell as much because they know what he's got. He's kind of the Mullen of last year. It seems like, they gave up a few long third downs like I was talking about. But again, when you're rushing three, they got all day. I don't care how good your corners are. They're going to be open. But yeah, I think the cornerbacks had a great day overall.
And I followed it up to finish it out with the safeties. I actually gave the safeties an A as well. Tanner Muse stopped a touchdown by getting a interception with Kayvon Wallace blitzing in and disrupting it. Isaiah Simmons being able to go back and play deep center field was really, interesting and exciting to see. Nolan Turner, who missed a tackle early on, then turned things around and forced a fumble, had a tackle for a loss as well. I'm really excited about that secondary. I think they're one of the best in the nation, and so they did a really good job. Even though they did have a lot of passing yards on them, but they kept them outside of that end zone. And I'm giving them both an A.
And I gave them an A-. We're pretty close there. Like you said, they had a few passing yards they gave up. They had the bust earlier in the game that could have been a touchdown. And obviously the Nolan Turner missed tackle. Nolan Turner, I love Nolan Turner. Like you said, the Hunter Renfrow of Clemson now, on defense. I expect him to make every play, and obviously they made him look pretty bad on that one, but he made up for it later in the game. But overall, great effort by the safeties. A- is pretty solid.
All right, that's it for our Week 2 position grades for the Clemson Tigers against the Texas A&M Aggies. We're going to come back after a short water break again and go into halftime to get questions and concerns from you guys in the chat. Stay with us. What's up, everybody? We are back for our halftime show. Me and Al are going to take a look at what's going on YouTube and over on Facebook. Right now, Al, I got 27 watching over on YouTube. Thank you so much for the support. If you haven't already, like our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. We really appreciate all the love and support. What you got over there on Facebook?
I'm rolling with 24 right now, so not too bad. Getting a lot of chatter going on here in the comments. So people were chatting back and forth, commenting on the stuff we're saying. It's good stuff. There's a lot of activity over here. I like it.
Well, if you got any questions, concerns, or emotional outbursts, go ahead and put them in the chat. We're going to read through them real quick. But while I'm reading through over on YouTube, Al, give us our halftime show sponsor.
All right, our mid-show sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, is Heating Cooling Services, Inc. They are family-owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling commercial chiller or anything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, give Heating Cooling Services a call. Ladies and gentlemen, get in touch with Mark or Jason Trammell, 864-224-7655. I want to give you that number again. It's 224-7655. Excuse me. Those guys are great. Okay, like Morgan said in the beginning of the show, we use these sponsors. They've helped us out. They've done good work for us, so we know they'll do good work for you. And please don't forget to tell them you heard about them on the Morgan Thomas Show and Big Al. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we want them to know their dollars are well spent. We want them to know that you guys are supporting them, so they'll continue to support us. So please make sure you told them you heard about them on the Morgan Thomas Show. All right, I'm getting some good stuff over here. They're talking about tempo from Aggies and how they didn't play tempo.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Go ahead.
That was really frustrating. I can't say that enough. Just coming out, I'm watching the replay, and I even told Al, I said, man, that was the boringest 24-point win or 21-point win. I'm not giving them that touchdown. I'm sorry. I'm not. But that was the boringest 21-point win. We didn't score in the first quarter because they held the ball almost the whole time. It was hard to score in the fourth quarter because they held the ball the whole time. Why are you holding the ball when you're down by 3 touchdowns? Makes no sense. No sense. He was basically griefing us. If you're a video gamer, he was trolling us. He was griefing us. He was sandbagging, whatever you want to call it. He was just being not a very good sportsman.
All right, check it out, man. It's time for topic number 3, spread picks. I believe you're still kind of leading the office pool, so to speak. Is that right?
Let me pull it up real quick.
Oh, please
because I want to make sure that everyone knows that I'm leading this, okay? And let me get over to our segment number 3. Thank you for sticking with us so far. I hope you're enjoying the different style that we're doing with these little breaks so we can get some water and whatnot so you can see some cool pictures from the game this last weekend. Right now, I'm leading the pack. You know I rigged this so that I would do this, but I'm 40-17 against the spread right now after 2 weeks into it. Well, really 2 weeks and a half a week, I guess, so the week 0. And then you are 4th at 38-19. So we're neck and neck. I mean, anything could happen. You know how this thing goes. There's no guarantee that I'm going to stay first. So if you don't know about it, go check out our Facebook page, and there's some posts on there that'll have the link for our group. I think the Yahoo group is 1758. I want to say 1758 or 1753 actually, and the password is Dabo. So if you want to jump in on our college football pick'em over on Yahoo, I know you'll be like 2 weeks late, but hey, if you get a good string of good wins and good picks, then you could catch up with us. So it's no big deal there. But Marty Bruce is asking, have I ever spoke to Brent Venables at a past recruiting wrap up? I told you, Marty, that we're not going to talk about this on my show. Maybe if you start a show, you can have me on as a guest, and then we'll talk about it there. All right? So thank you for that. How sketchy was the safety turned penalty turned whistle before the snap? Yeah, Alan, what was the consensus at the game? Because it was like you didn't even know what to think at home, and then before you knew it, it was like, well, it didn't hurt Clemson, right? So moving on.
Yeah, so we'll take it, right? It was really weird. We weren't exactly sure what was going on. Obviously, we saw the safety signal come up, and then they said they blew a whistle. I never heard a whistle, but again, I wasn't really paying much attention. The crowd was kind of loud. It was actually funny. The crowd had kind of gotten loud at the end of the game. Near the end of the game, they kind of come back to life a little bit. But I'm not surprised. I mean, goodness gracious, you saw the catch where the guy's foot, 5 inches out of bounds. They called a catch, and they said the call stood. So I wasn't really surprised with anything from the refereeing crew after that one.
Well, especially after the one where Kellen Mond jumps to throw the ball, and Kayvon Wallace is just doing a regular tackle, but because he jumped, it hit him in the knee, and they called a personal foul on it, or a roughing the passer or whatever. I thought that was ridiculous, or hit below the waist or something. I don't know. I don't even know what you call it. Hit to the legs.
I thought it was ridiculous too because he gave him an earful.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But let's get over. All right, so segment number 3 is our week 3 picks against the spread. Basically, we look at the spread that's come out on ESPN and all these big sites, and we just kind of go through. We focus on ACC teams and top 25 versus top 25 teams. I didn't see any top 25 versus top 25s. I thought I saw one. Alabama is playing South Carolina, but then I remembered that they're not a top 25 team, so I took that off. But we're going to talk about ACC teams and top 25 versus top 25 teams. Really, right now, ACC teams. So let me get you started. We kind of run through it pretty quick. Take down notes because obviously Alan and I know what we're talking about, and we're geniuses here. We're killing it. And all right, so North Carolina at Wake Forest. After North Carolina coming in 2-0 and doing so well for the first 2 games of the season, Wake Forest has got a gunslinger behind center. And they're actually giving 3 points to North Carolina. What do you got?
I'm taking Wake Forest -3. I think you said it was 3. It was 2.5 when I wrote it down here, but I'll take them 3 as well. I just think this. I don't want to say fairy tale beginning for UNC has to come to an end because it's just 2-0. All right, but hey, they're far ahead of where people thought they were going to be. I mean, this was not a good football team on paper beginning of the year, Mac Brown's first year. But hey, I'm taking Wake Forest to end it at -3.
Well, I don't know, man. I'm going to go with North Carolina, the return of the Mac. I'm going to stay with him and see how long he can ride this out. I'd love to see an undefeated North Carolina and Clemson come to town and just tear them up. I'd love to see that. So I'm going to go with North Carolina and see what happens. The next one up is Kansas at Boston College. I actually looked at the Football Power Index, and there's like a sliver, a 0.3% chance that Kansas wins this game. So, it looks like Boston College is going to take it to Les Miles over there. What you got? The Boston College is actually -21.
Yeah, so the lines moved down. Okay, it was 21.5 when I had this. I was taking Boston College anyways. I'm going to take them now, minus the 21. Yeah, I think they're going to be able to run all over Kansas. Kansas has been a bad team for a long time, and I think Boston College has actually looked pretty decent this year. I think it's a bad matchup for Kansas, and I think Boston College is going to be able to pretty much do whatever they want.
I completely agree with you on that one. Kansas just lost to Coastal Carolina 12-7.
Yeah.
And BC is scoring 40 points per game right now with behind a really good running back. So I'm going BC on that one, given 21 points away. Next one's up is Pittsburgh versus Penn State at Penn State. Penn State is giving 17. Who you got there?
I have Penn State since they're at home. I was thinking about taking Pittsburgh. I actually had Pittsburgh marked, and then I realized, no, Penn State's at home. I think they're just going to kind of rout Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh's a very good team. It's their first road game as well, so I think it's going to get kind of ugly with a good Penn State team.
Penn State started off the first 2 weeks really well, and I think they will, because they're able to score so often and so frequently, I'm going to go with Penn State as well. North Carolina State at West Virginia. Even though North Carolina State started the season off pretty strong, they're -6.5 to West Virginia.
-6.5. Okay. I actually took West Virginia when the line was 7, which is odd because West Virginia has looked absolutely atrocious this year. All right, but they're at home. West Virginia just got punked by Missouri, so I'm looking for them to rebound against the Wolfpack and maybe give their fans a little something to scream about. So I took them at +7. I might as well just still take them at 6.5. So give me West Virginia +6.5.
I'm actually going to go the other side. I feel like if they can't, if Missouri just stifles them and runs and just Kelly Bryant just passed all over them, I think NC State's going to be able to do the same. They're scoring a lot of points right now too, so I got NC State, even though I hate saying that. Okay, we got a couple of off games here. Furman at Virginia Tech. Alan, I'm going to run through these. I'm guessing we're picking Virginia Tech on that. Citadel at Georgia Tech. I'm guessing we're picking Georgia Tech on that. That's another off. One that's off, Bethune-Cookman at Miami. We're going to take Miami there. So no upsets at all for me. I'm guessing you're on the right track with that too, right?
I am. I do think that Virginia Tech Furman game could be a little closer than people think, though. But I'm going to take Virginia Tech to get the win.
Louisville at Western Kentucky. This one's kind of interesting because they're giving 10 points to Western Kentucky, but Western Kentucky's been putting up some points themselves against some teams. Louisville had a good showing against Notre Dame at the start, but then they kind of fell off. But they're rushing the ball really well. What do you think about that one?
I'm going to take Louisville as well. I'm just not sold on Western Kentucky. Not that I should be, anyways. They're not a very good team. I think back in the day they had a pretty prolific passing attack at one point, but Louisville looked decent last week. I'm going to take them to in the 10 points.
Yeah, I picked Louisville as well, so we're kind of on the same track here. Duke at Middle Tennessee. Duke giving 6.5. What you got?
I'm going to take Duke. I hate, but it goes against my very core to pull for Duke in any type of way, but I guess I'm going to have to. So I'm going to take Duke and Cutcliffe to pull the win out by more than 6.5 points or whatever the spread you said was. So I'm going to take Dukies to win this one.
All right, and then to wrap it up for ACC games, before we get into the Clemson versus Syracuse preview and prediction, Florida State, that old FSU team that just can't seem to get it together, maybe losing their coach after all this craziness, at Virginia. So they have to travel to Virginia. Virginia's giving 7 points. Who you got?
Well, honestly, at the beginning of the year, I probably would have taken Florida State plus the points. But after watching Florida State, can you really take them here? I mean, Virginia's looked like a pretty good football team. I think they're going to have a good season. And Florida State looks like an absolute dumpster fire. I think you have to take Virginia in the points. That's not to say Florida State can't cover. Vegas knows what they're doing. That's why they have all those big buildings out there. But I'm going to take Virginia minus the 7.
What's crazy is that Florida State, again, comes out strong and can pass all over anybody, can run all over anybody, but then it's like they go into halftime and eat a hamburger, come out, and they're like, forget it. We won't play the rest of the game. No big deal. And they definitely can't stop anybody. Yeah. So even if they can get – even Blackman can get 300 yards and Cam Akers can get 100 yards rushing. They can't stop anybody. They can't even stop Monroe. So I say you got to go with Virginia there. They've got a legitimate good quarterback in the ACC and a good running back, so I'm going with Virginia there. We're going to, again, take another 10 to 15-second break, and we'll be back on the other side. I hope you stick with us because it's going to be our last topic, and that is the Clemson versus Syracuse preview and prediction, which you've all been waiting for.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with topic number 4. It is the Clemson versus Syracuse preview. This is what we have all been waiting for. Want to know how the Tigers are going to fare this weekend up in New York, okay? So what do we think, Morgan? All right. I'm going to let you go ahead and start us off with your preview of the game and we'll do our predictions at the end if you're cool with that.
I like it. Well, my first thing is I like the way that a lot of these college football shows, they say, what does Clemson need to do to be successful? What does Syracuse need to do? I think maybe Fox does it for Atlanta Braves games. So I wanted to do it in this sense as well. So what does Clemson need to do? What does Syracuse need to do? And what will actually happen, in my opinion? So the first thing is, what does Clemson need to do? They got to stop Mo Neal, really the only guy that is the heartbeat of their team. It's no longer Eric Dungy, that was their star quarterback and number one rusher. It is Mo Neal now who is their number one rusher. And if you stop him, which Maryland was able to do last week, I believe you got a good chance of just really putting up a lot of points on them and stopping them from scoring any points. Tristan Jackson as well is their number one wide receiver, the guy who Tommy DeVito loves to go after. Tommy's not really being that savior that everybody thought, that awesome quarterback that everybody thought would fit the offense as well as what they expected. And so he kind of relies on that one wide receiver and relies on Mo Neal to back him up. If Clemson can stop those two players, specifically Mo Neal, I think they'll be successful. What do you think?
Well, first of all, as the host, it'd be a good idea to tell the co-host if you're going to kind of format a segment, in a certain way. So I'm a little thrown off by that. But, as far as Clemson, what they need to do to win the game, all right, they need to be prepared for Syracuse's tempo. Okay, it's bit us in the past. Brent Venables has struggled a little bit, guarding the tempo team, Syracuse in particular. Obviously, he likes to get his calls in at the last second. You see him, run around like a crazy person on the sideline trying to get his calls in. Once he sees what the offense is going to do, it's difficult with a tempo team. And, our team gets, defense kind of gets caught looking at the sideline sometimes. So it's a little bit difficult. Now they need to be prepared for that. I'm trusting him to get it done. He's seen it the past couple of years. It's kind of given us trouble. He's going to fix it this year. I don't think he's going to have any issues there for the most part. So, they may score a few points, but it's not going to be that big a deal. But the defense has to be prepared for the tempo, stop the short, quick passing game, that kind of thing. Clemson, they out-talent Syracuse, plain and simple, by a lot, pretty much like they do everybody in the country. So offense, they should be able to move the ball. Syracuse, as far as what they need to do to win, they need to get pressure on Trevor Lawrence. They have a couple of pretty decent defensive ends. Their line is not that bad, so they need to get the pressure. The reason they weren't able to get pressure last week against Maryland is because Maryland ran at an even faster pace than Syracuse. Maryland was running at an absolutely breakneck pace, which was completely negating the defensive line of Syracuse. Clemson doesn't run quite that fast. I think they're going to be able to get a little more pressure, maybe make a couple mistakes, something like that. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to, make a difference. But I think this game could be closer than people think, because I think a lot of people are going to overreact, to the big loss to Maryland last week. But I think the styles are a little bit different, and it's going to kind of lend itself to a little bit closer game.
Well, I would agree. I think Maryland does come out a lot faster. They just kept going at them for sure. But the formations and the style of play, the routes that are ran, and even the player personnel is better, and a lot of similarities too between Maryland and Clemson. So I think that it's not going to be good for Syracuse. What does Syracuse need to do? I put down pray. They're just going to have to pray, because the linebacking core, we heard, not going to be a big deal. We lost a couple of linebackers, not going to be a big deal. It is a big deal. They weren't able to stop anybody in the passing game or running game against Maryland. The offensive line, they lost a couple of offensive line. It's not going to be a big deal. It is a big deal. You're not able to get a running game going against Maryland. So there's some flaws there on the offensive line. There's some flaws there in the second level of the defense. And then Tommy DeVito, you say, oh, man, this guy is going to be the next